I remember as a young lad, I had to like stay up late and watch like the Howard Stern show because that was like the most risque thing I could watch. You know?
That was it, dude. I remember the most risque thing that I loved was Showtime After Midnight, the Red Shoe Diaries.
We did not have Showtime, but we did have the E Network, and that was back in the day when Howard Stern had like, he was trying to be as provocative as possible,
Right.
because he had recently moved to Sirius or whatever, and he could do all sorts of wild shit. It's funny now that like he has all the freedom in the world. He doesn't do it anymore, like he doesn't do that crazy like sit on the vibrating chair or whatever.
Yeah, that's that thing. I think he made a name for himself doing those crazy things, and now he doesn't have to do it anymore.
Well, I think a big part of why he did it was more of just like as an FU to the censorship that was going on.
Yeah.
So he's like, how risque can I make it? And then like once you get rid of the censorship, it's like, well, that's just not that interesting, honestly. What's more interesting is actually having a deep discussion, which is what he does now. Also, Howard Stern is like an old fucking man now, so it's just like sort of creepy for him to be like, oh yeah, sit on the vibrating chair. Also, the culture.
What is the Symbion? Is that what it's called? A Symbion?
Yeah,
it's got like a name, a Sibian.
Yeah,
the name is like a Sibian or something.
Yeah, dude, Howard Stern was he really broke a lot of ground when it came to that kind of shit.
He was the originator of the shock jockery.
Was he the original shock jock, or did he just take shock jock to like a whole other level?
He probably wasn't the original shock jockery. There were other shock jocks before Howard, but I think Howard Stern just, capitalized on it in the best possible way. He made it where it wasn't, or he made it so that it was profitable. I would say that he made it so that it was profitable. And he got other people to buy off on it. Nowadays, people just do it. I just do it now because for the sheer complete shock value. But Howard Stern, I believe he took the craft of shock jockery, and peeled off stuff that didn't need to be there and added and embellished things that made shock jockery today.
Well, and that was definitely like the thing at the time, like the 90s, early 2000s. Shock was kind of the thing, like shock rock was a big thing, like Marilyn Manson and Rammstein. I watched an interview with Rammstein, and they're the famous German. I think they're German. They're German or Russian. I can't remember. But I think they're German. But their whole thing was like, let's be as shocking as possible, but also write some pretty kick-ass bangers. But I watched an interview with them sort of recently, and by recently I mean like 5 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they're like, you can't shock an audience anymore because nothing's really shocking anymore.
Not when you consider social media. Social media wasn't big when Howard Stern was doing his shock jockiness.
Right. And
now
the internet
the internet and social media has completely taken out all of the shock and awe of anything at this point.
What the lead singer actually said, he said the last thing someone could potentially do to shock an audience is to stand up on stage and commit suicide. That's like the last thing that could potentially shock an audience.
Literally, or just connect electrodes to their seats. I mean, you have to go to the literal sense and literally shocks an audience. You can't. And then after what we've dealt with over the last 4 years, we're so numb. Even if someone did commit suicide on the stage right now, we'll be like, I would have did it this way.
Yeah. But still my favorite things, like going back to like to Howard Stern, like, I'll go back and listen to like some old Howard Stern sometimes just for like the nostalgia factor. And I don't like listening to the like stuff where he got all like weird and sexual and shit. my favorite things were when he was just like having real conversations with people, and like the fact that he didn't have that like censorship that most radio DJs had at the time allowed him to like say some more real shit, or perceived as real shit. I remember his coverage of 9/11 being pretty impactful.
I like the weirdness of Howard Stern, and he still does. He does like the little peen contest. You know, he has people from on his staff or listeners come into a studio, or he used to come into the studio, and they would judge to see who had the smallest penis. I mean, those are things that Howard Stern has done. And I love that shock jockness of it. And you've worked with me on previous incarnations of shows. I bring a little bit of that into my own studio. I find that type of entertainment entertaining, quite honestly. But Howard does it in such a artful way.
He did it in a way that still felt respectful in a weird way.
Well, he's the king of he's the king of painting with words, because before cameras were in his studio, it was all radio, real radio. You know, and he was the king of painting the picture with words, where you could hear him audibly and your imagination would kick in and you would complete the visual to his audio presentation. Now with cameras in, it's just like everything that you thought was happening was actually happening. And that's a skill, to be able to paint a picture with your words. But yeah. I love the shockness of what he does now with the little peen thing, and then the drunk lady that's always on the show, and then the homeless person, and he still does the masturbation jokes and masturbation conversation. I mean, he's unserious.
Yeah, I haven't listened to Howard Stern in years, so
I follow him on Instagram. I get his clips. It's funny as hell.
Well, watch this transition. How about we paint some pictures with words, Cory?
How about you paint this? 5, 6, 7, 8.
What is up, boyos? This is the Jake and Cory podcast. I'm Jake. That's Cory. What's up, Cory?
What's up, Jake?
You know, just living life. You know, just over here shooting the shit with one of my good pals. Don't know if you've met him. His name is Cory. You know.
Oh, you're shooting the shit with a good pal. Okay, well, let me know when you're done. You know, I on this show quite often, Jake, I don't listen to you, but I just literally pulled up one of my friend's Instagram pages, and his Insta story that he posted last night. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, friends over for a movie night. And I'm just like, pandemic lately? You know what I'm saying?
Ever heard of the pandemic?
You know, it's getting to a point, dude, where I've been called out on Fat Guy Radio Show, I've been called out for COVID shaming, pandemic shaming. Because I call people on their lack of protection. I think I've done it on this show to you to a certain extent, but I feel that you're actually doing very well with, you know, keeping to yourself, but you've always been a loner, so it's not really hard. It's not really an adjustment for you. But
true. It has been hard though, man.
I agree. Rough. I agree with you. I'm a loner too. I'm an island in both the literal sense and the metaphoric sense. But
yeah, you don't realize how much you go out until you can't anymore, you know?
Right. And you can't go out and you can't do things that you want to do. But I've been accused of pandemic shaming people, especially after the Thanksgiving holiday, because I had a lot of people on social media that were posting up prior to Thanksgiving don't travel, don't gather, don't go over and visit your friends and your family on Thanksgiving. And then the day of Thanksgiving comes around and I'm sitting at home by myself and I'm looking at all of their pictures of them traveling and walking through airports with their mask on, and they're sitting at tables that have 18 chairs around it and people with 2 big ass cartoon sized turkeys. And I'm like scrolling up through their post and I'm like, you literally 3 days ago posted and shared something from ABC or MSNBC or CNN or Fox News saying not Fox News, but saying don't travel. And you are actually, the hypocrisy of Thanksgiving led to me being accused of pandemic shaming people. And rightfully so, in my words, because you said you were promoting or sharing the exact thing that you did. And we wonder why the numbers are where they are in the state of Arizona, because I figured it out, Jake. People haven't learned or computed in their minds what they need to do for safety. They know what they need to do to be safe. It's clear. We're 8 months in. It's clear what they need to do. Everybody knows. But instead of people figuring out how to do what they know, people have now mastered the ability to lie that they're doing it and then doing another way. It's the secret Trump voter now for COVID. You're telling everybody on the surface that you're a Biden supporter, but when you got in the voting booth, you tick mark Trump. It's the same thing with COVID. You're telling everybody, yes, I'm taking the precautions. Yes, I'm staying at home. Yes, I'm not going anywhere. And you're absolutely doing the opposite of that. And that's the reason why this damn thing will never go away.
Yeah. I've seen it.
People haven't figured out how to take the precautions. They figured out how to lie and make you believe that they're following the precautions when in actuality, they are not. And this is why the freaking numbers are going up again.
Yeah, dude. And if people think, Thanksgiving was bad, damn, dude, Christmas is going to be a mess. Because most people don't even give a shit about Thanksgiving to begin with. People actually care about Christmas.
People care about Christmas. And here's the thing. I had a conversation on my show with my executive producer, Daniel Taylor. And he was like, well, my grandmother told me that I had to come over for Thanksgiving. My reply to that was that this would have been the one Thanksgiving that I would have disobeyed grandma.
Yeah. Sorry, grandma.
This would have been, and he was like, well, what if, this would have been her last Thanksgiving? And then my response was, what if this would have been her last Thanksgiving at your hand? Because you were asymptomatic, went over to Grams because she told you to, you pass it on to her, and then she sashayed off the planet because you obeyed her. Would you be able to sleep knowing that you killed your grandmother? Or would you be able to sleep knowing that your grandmother just passed on because of old age? Which one is it? Do people even realize that how many murderers are walking around this planet right now? People that are carrying this thing, spreading it because they're lying about quarantining or being safe, and they're passing it on to people that they'll never meet a day in their life. They'll never know their names. But they're passing it on to people that are sashaying off the planet by the thousands of people a day. There's millions of murderers on this planet right now because they're passing this thing on and they're killing somebody else. And they'll never know. How could you, with that thought alone in your mind, you would think that would be even more reason to take the extra precautions seriously, even though it's very difficult. It's difficult. Dude, Thanksgiving was the hardest fucking day of my life for me, not being around my kids and not being around my family. I know it fucking sucks, but it's one Thanksgiving. Next Thanksgiving, it won't be like this, hopefully. One Thanksgiving to sacrifice, man. One Christmas to sacrifice. And these motherfuckers won't do it. And it's aggravating and it's frustrating because this thing should not be continuing to spiral out of control. And it's only spiraling out of control because of two things. One, we have no leadership. And two, nobody, people have learned how to lie about it and cover it up, then own it.
It's
I'm
true.
done.
I had a family member whose birthday it was actually today. Happy birthday.
Happy birthday,
Brandon.
family member.
But you know, they're like, "Hey, come on over, have some cake." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, dude. I can't do it." You know?
I think you're lying, Jake. You're doing exactly what I just explained that everybody's doing. You went, you had cake, now you're coming on here and you're lying about it.
I'm not lying about it. I did get my car washed though. And that's why we started late. But
did you wash it yourself or did you drive through one of those little wash car thingies?
I just drove it through one of those things.
That there is COVID precautionary. Yeah. You drive through, you never got out of your car. You let those soap and the bird poop hit your car from the machine. Yeah. It wasn't one of those ones that move or one of the ones that you have to drive through.
What?
There's two types of car washes here in Arizona. There's the one where you put your
stop
money
and
in,
you get out, and you
you put your money in, and it tells you to pull up, and then it tells you to stop and put your car in neutral, and then it pulls you through. And then there's the other one that tells you to go drive, stop, put your car in park, and then the machine moves around you. Which one did you go to?
It pulled me through.
It pulled you.
The pulley.
Yeah.
It pulled you. One.
Yeah.
It pulled me.
Nice.
I got pulled. Yeah. Like with like cars, if you don't get them washed and then it gets like all the white crusties and shit, and like, you know, the paint starts to deteriorate. And
well, as we discussed, I
don't want that to happen to my car.
Right. But you park out in the Arizona sun. I do not. And everywhere that I go, everywhere that I work, I have some level of covered parking. I don't think there's any only place that I go that I often don't have covered parking is at the Phoenix Arena, the former Talking Stick Resort Arena. That's the only place where I go but I could have covered parking, but I decide to pay for the uncovered parking because it's closer to the arena and I'm fat and I don't want to walk that far. So that's like true. the employee parking at downtown Phoenix for the arena formerly known as Talking Stick Resort.
What's it called now?
It's the Phoenix Arena.
It just doesn't have a sponsor anymore.
It doesn't have a sponsor anymore. It's just called the Phoenix Arena.
That makes sense. Why would you sponsor an arena right now, I guess?
True. So the employee parking is like a half a mile away. The employee parking is on the other side of the bank, the Chase Field. It literally is on the other side of Chase Field. So then you have to park over there. It's covered. It's one of those parking garages, but then you got to walk a half a mile into the arena.
I enjoy the walk, you know?
No, I don't. I'm not. So I pay $10 to park right across the street from the arena.
Every time I go somewhere, like if I'm going to a grocery store or you know, wherever, going to a concert or whatever, you know, in the before times, I always purposefully park in the back because I like to get that walk in, you know?
It's cheaper too, Jake, be honest. You're only doing it because the further you get away,
the further you get away at a grocery store.
Oh, at a grocery store, you're saying. I thought you were talking about when you go to a concert, like at the arena or something.
That too, yeah.
It's cheaper. When you park in the back of the arena, it's cheaper. The further you get away, the cheaper it gets.
It's true. Hey, I wanted to bring this up, Cory, because we like to talk about movies. We like to talk about movies, correct?
We do. I thought we had a movie special coming up soon.
We do. Weeks. In December, yeah. It is December. Holy shit.
Might want to get on the ball, Jakey. I want to get on the ball, Jakey Poo. You're the one that scripted it out?
Yeah. I've got it ready to go. But there was a big move with Warner Brothers movies.
Okay.
for next year. So normally, movie companies, they'll announce their slate. They're like, here's all the movies coming out for 2021. The big move that Warner Brothers just announced is every movie that they're releasing in theaters next year is also coming out on HBO Max, which is a pretty big deal. If I can find the lineup here. Let's see. So, like, the big ones are like Wonder Woman, 1980, whatever. That's coming. I can't fucking find the lineup. But this is a big piece of news. Do you think this will become the norm?
No, when you said it, the first thing that came to mind is pandemic panic. I think that what we're going to end up experiencing, and this is coming from Dr. Fauci, and this kind of plays into what you're talking about. I'm not pivoting. I'm just bringing another viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
By April, May of next year, we're going to have public vaccinations. Dr. Fauci predicts that by the end of summer 2021, we'll be back to selling out arenas at sporting events. If that comes to light, I think that the movie industry is going to return back to their normal business plan of releasing movies into theaters only. I think that them putting out that list of movies that are going to go in the theaters and go on HBO Max, I think that's going to be short-lived and probably last maybe halfway through 2021 if Dr. Fauci's prediction is accurate. Because if people are going back into arenas because we've eradicated this thing and vaccinations are out and this thing has gone the way of the bird flu, then people are going to be way more comfortable going back into theaters as well, where you've got the capacity of 100 and 250 people. So I think that if that's going to be the case, having these movies on HBO Max and in theaters, it's going to shortchange one of those parties. It's either going to shortchange the movie theaters or it's going to shortchange HBO Max. In my opinion, knowing you, Jake, I think it's going to shortchange HBO Max, and HBO Max is going to end up having a lot of this content sitting there that a lot of people aren't viewing, because if people are comfortable going back into arenas, they're definitely going to go back into a theater.
So
it might be a little bit of a panic for 2021. I would imagine it's only going to go halfway through.
I have a lot of thoughts on what you just said, but here's an article from the Los Angeles Times. The decision follows the disappointment domestic launch of Christopher Nolan's Tenet, which is a Warner Brothers film, which launched in September in hopes of reviving beleaguered cinemas. Weak domestic box office for the time-bending action thriller led studios to further postpone their releases. Although the movie performed well internationally, Warner Bros. 2021 release schedule consists of 17 movies. So you hear 17 movies and you're like, they're probably like the movies they don't care about, right?
Yeah.
But here's a short list of some of the movies, okay? We've got The Little Things. I don't know what that is. Judas and the Black Messiah. I don't know what that is. But Tom and Jerry, which is like the new big like reboot on Tom and Jerry, which is supposed to be big kids movie. We got Godzilla vs. Kong, which they've been leading to this for several years now with two prior movies. Mortal Kombat, which is supposed to be huge as well. Those Who Wish Me Dead, I don't know what that is. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It, which the Conjuring series always does well domestically. Space Jam: A New Legacy, which they have been working on this film forever, and they're finally releasing it. So The Suicide Squad, which is another huge release. Yeah. Dune, which is another just massive release. And then, of course, Matrix 4, the reboot, the soft reboot of the Matrix series. So I have some thoughts on what you said. If things open up again, will we continue seeing these movies come out on HBO Max? I kind of think we might. I think they will continue to release them on HBO Max. And I think HBO Max will see a huge incline for it. Because these aren't just like movies you want to skip over. Like, you want to watch Wonder Woman, you know? Like, you want to watch Dune. You want to watch Matrix. Like, these are the big movies. Like, if you're a movie fan, these are what you want to watch. And you get the convenience of not going to a movie theater, despite, you know, the fact that the theaters are open and coronavirus is gone or whatever. You know, let's be optimistic here. But and I think their thought process is, you know, we may not make that you know, theater money, but instead of people paying for the ticket at the movie theater, they'll spend the $15 for the month that movie comes out, right? And that's a month of HBO, and the theaters have no way of being like, you can't put it in our theaters, because the movie theaters have like no legs to stand on here. They're gonna take the movie if it's on HBO Max or not. Normally, I would say AMC wouldn't even allow that, but I think AMC is so desperate to have movies come back into their theaters that they're like, fuck. I saw an article that said that AMC's pretty upset, but it didn't say AMC isn't going to show their films, because of course they are.
It would be dumb.
They need those films. Yeah.
At the end of the day, the Warner Brothers is who's going to win. Warner Brothers is going to walk away, skip to the Malou, my darling, because they're going to have their products on two platforms at the same time. And it's going, I think that what's going to end up happening, Jake, and I understand what you're saying, diehard movie fans are going to go back to the theaters if they're not already going back now. And then what you're going to do is, like, someone that's like me, that's not a diehard movie fan, but I would say that I would probably take in maybe 5 to 6 movies in the movie theater a year. That's literally what I am. I personally would pick going to a theater when safe over an HBO Max subscription, because it's like, you know, there's something that HBO Max has its niche. It has its draw to people, but the theater also has their draw too, the community, the sense of community. Theaters are so much way more advanced now, with McGivens and the bars and alcohol being in theaters now. I think that there's something to say for each one of those platforms. But once all this COVID stuff is all said and done, because it didn't happen before COVID, I don't think it's a very strong business model at this point. I don't think it's gonna do well once things are back to normal. HBO Max will go back to being just HBO Max, and the theaters will go back to having those blockbuster openings. I think that's the way it's gonna be, because, Jake, if it was something that was 100% viable, or even 95% viable, they would have done it prior to the pandemic, don't you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, so that's interesting that you say that. And we've said it on this show before a long time ago at this point. But we said it where, like, maybe the future of movie theaters is it's a more boutique experience now.
Yeah,
maybe
we did talk about that.
Maybe we'll just see less theaters. Because I'm one of those guys that's like, I want to see it in a movie theater. I want to see it on the big screen with the surround sound. If IMAX is available, I want to see it in that. Dolby Atmos, I want that. I want those overhead speakers. I'm one of those guys. But they've always said that the average moviegoer sees 2 movies a year in theaters. And I think...
So wait, I'm above average?
You are above average.
That's the first time anything in my life that I've come in above average.
But I think a lot of these studios maybe wanted to do this beforehand, but could not, because they wanted to double dip that market, where we want that theater money, but we also want to just launch it on our streaming service as well, because that's just more money and more content on the streaming service. More content on a streaming service is typically always a good thing. Just look at Netflix. And we've seen more and more pre-pandemic, more and more just like big name movies coming out directly onto like Netflix. Like Marriage Story was a huge one, won a couple Oscars. Like
yeah,
it was
but that was
happening.
That was predicated by the pandemic. The previous
Marriage Story wasn't. Marriage
the previous
Story wasn't.
business,
that was last year.
Yeah, the previous business model has been this, and I think maybe this is what an element that we're missing, Jake. Movies don't stay forever in theaters. They wean off, the crowds see them. There's the big boom when they first come out. And I'm talking about blockbuster movies. There's a big boom that first come out, and then the crowds drizzle off, and then they move it to a theater that's, got 50 or 75 seats into it, and then eventually it goes away. Versus HBO Max, it will always be there, most likely.
Well, but that's the thing, though, is like, let's say
theaters have to cycle through them, right?
They do, and they will continue to have to do that because that's just how it works. But the thing is like when a theater releases a movie, it's hot, and then when it leaves the theater and it goes to HBO Max, let's just use like The Dark Knight as an example.
Okay.
When The Dark Knight comes to HBO Max, it's like, who gives a shit, But if it comes to HBO Max day and date when it comes out in theaters, it's like, well, maybe I'll just fucking pick up HBO Max. Like that's a lot more enticing than getting a movie that's been in theaters. It's done its run. I've probably already seen it. It's on DVD. It's everywhere. The other thing is like before, the reason they didn't do it before is because theaters probably had a bit more leverage beforehand because they had some money, and they're like, we can afford to say, well, if you do that, we're not putting your movies in our theaters. They can't do that anymore. Early on in the pandemic, Universal's like, we're going to release all our movies on streaming platforms, and AMC was all pissed off. And so AMC's like, well, we're not going to show your movies anymore. I'm sure AMC doesn't hold that stand anymore. They don't. No,
they can't. Like, and I'm trying to put my mindset into what I said about Dr. Fauci's prediction. I'm trying to put myself at the end of summer 2021, where if his prediction is accurate, and he's been pretty damn accurate up to this point, right now it's definitely a sense of hope with this whole thing. Once public vaccinations are out, and they're estimating April, May, March, maybe, I'm talking about the general public being vaccinated. But I think that we're going to see the old business model return. AMC is going to renege on the fact that they pouted, and they're going to take every movie that comes out because then they're going to know that the market is going to be moving again. Right now, the market for moviegoers isn't moving. People are still very uncomfortable about going into a movie theater, even though people are, but it's not at the numbers that they were before. It would be the nail in the coffin of the movie experience, the movie theater experience, if Warner Brothers and other film companies and studios like this did do theater and streaming. They're going to kill the theaters, man. That's going to be the death of theaters.
Yeah.
And then we will have that boutique theater where you'll only be able to see very selective released special movies in a smaller capacity. Theaters and streaming have always had their two separate markets and their two separate niches. And when you start to cross those streams, in the words of Ghostbusters, only havoc can be the result of that.
Yeah, I think there will always be theaters, but we may see a lot less theaters. I think we're going to see a lot of theaters close down. We've already seen a bunch. I think all of Regal Films is done. I think those are gone.
And all of this hinges on the studios. All of this hinges on the studios, and streaming only has become. This is what I'm thinking, Jake. This is and it may be, and I may be wrong. Streaming has been around with theaters and they've both done well. I firmly believe that we're going to return to that business model. There's going to be a small segment of the market that will never return to a theater because they've gotten adjusted to streaming. And then there's going to be a segment of the market that never really adjusted to streaming and still want that theater experience, and which is going to return to that old business model.
So last year, 2019,
there was a year before 2020. Hell, I forgot.
I know.
Right?
It was one of the biggest years as far as box office goes, right? Huge numbers, huge numbers.
Humongous. Prices going up through the roof.
But the thing is, Cory, on average, films made a lot less. And the reason for this, and the reason why we saw a huge increase in box office, but like on average films made less, is because the big blockbusters made a shit ton of money, while every other film made a tiny bit of money. And that's because of streaming. Because most people are like, I'll wait till it comes to Netflix. If it's Avengers and it's a big talking thing, like everyone's talking about it, like Endgame, everyone's gonna go see it. But if it's like that fucking movie with Seth Rogen, like people are like, I can wait, But like Lion King comes out, everyone's like, well, I want to see it so I can talk about it with my friends, water cooler talk or whatever. But,
so why can't the studios then take a different approach? Take a movie like Lion King that they know is most likely going to be a blockbuster, put it in theaters, and then once the theater rose is off the bloom is off the rose, they can now put it on streaming. And then when other movies like Sausage Party comes out, they just skip the theaters and go right to streaming. That way both industries can have a piece of the pie. Everybody gets a little nibba.
Yeah, but studios are like, fuck it, dude. We can make a lot more money if we can put these big budgets day and date in theaters and streaming. Everyone's watching it. Everybody's seeing it. Theaters are going to take a hit, but we'll see like boutique theaters. We'll see a couple theaters stick around because there's always going to be people who want to go see a movie in the theater.
Streaming will never take a hit.
Actually, during the pandemic, something interesting has happened that I think is a potentially really cool market for theaters in the future, which has been renting out the theater, which was an option before, but it was just like astronomical amounts of money to rent out a theater. Right now, you can rent out a theater for a movie for $100, and which sounds like a lot, but in reality, if you've got 20 friends that want to go see that movie with you right now, pandemic, don't do that. But if you've got 20 friends post pandemic that want to go see a movie for $100 and you split it, that ain't that bad. And you've got the theater to yourself. You can fuck around if you want. You can keep it as quiet as you want. You kind of create your own setting. That's a pretty good market for the theaters to take, I think, in the future, as well as just being able to be like, hey, I want to watch fucking Star Wars in the theaters. Like, that sounds pretty cool.
You don't think that $100 theater rental thing was just a pandemic panic move for theaters? We talked about it because I talked about maybe getting you a theater for your birthday. I think it was a pandemic panic move. And once the pandemic is over, that's going to go away. They're going to go back up to their thousands of dollars to open up a theater. And also the caveat to that $99 theater rental for you and 20 of your closest COVID sucking friends is that the movie selection sucked. I thought about getting you a theater for your birthday until I realized you didn't love me the way that I loved you. And I was like, screw it. I'm not spending $100 on you.
Yeah. I mean, they could up the price to $150 or whatever, but like, I don't think that the panic is going to end for the theaters as soon as the pandemic ends.
You don't think the panic for the theater rental price is going to go away?
No,
I think that's going to skyrocket.
Maybe. I don't think it's going to skyrocket too much because I think they're going to be desperate just to make any money they can, especially with HBO doing this move. and they're like, "Fuck, we're not even like gonna be able to pull in as big a numbers as we used to."
I got it. Here's how we change this up, Jake, where everybody's happy. AMC takes that $99 theater rental and they chop that sumbitch in half to $59.99. And then you walk in there and you sign into your HBO Max account and you just watch it on AMC's big ass screen. Boom!
Yeah.
Everybody wins.
Honestly, that could be the future too, where it's just like you bring your own fucking movie to the theater or whatever.
You have a 200-foot screen. It'd be amazing.
Yeah. Video games, you could do like big ass Tetris.
Porn. Oh, not Tetris. Oh my, Jake, if that happens,
porn.
I'm bored. Yeah, porn. Jake, if that happens, I'm telling you right now, I will rent out a theater on my dime to play Among Us.
But you could be the only person in there.
No, this is post-pandemic.
But like to play Among Us, you can't see the other person's screen.
Oh, I'm gonna have to rent out like 10 screens then, huh?
we could play like Call of Duty or something though.
oh, I got it. We rent out one screen and we just go in and we watch Twitch players like XQC and Dean So Cool and Saikuno and ALC. We watch them play Among Us, and it'd be like when you go to a strip club and you see all the girls and you get all excited and you go home and you treat yourself like an amusement park. We'll watch everybody. We'll watch the big time streamers, the big time Twitchers play Among Us, and then we'll get all our Among Us feelings going, and then we'll all go home and we'll play Among Us amongst ourselves.
Yeah, sounds great.
Or I got it. We do a screen split where we really F up the game, and you got 10 different Among Us feeds on this massive AMC screen, and everybody's playing, and you can see everybody, including the imposters.
But doesn't that remove the fun?
You're in a theater, who cares?
Yeah.
It smells like popcorn and your feet are sticking to the ground.
I know personally playing video games on a massive screen is honestly not the best move. Usually you want a smaller screen.
I'll tell you a secret, and this is a as you do whatever you're doing.
Oh God.
Yeah, you're having technical that's happened to me too, because I have my mic attached to a glass table now. Oh my, if people only could see what's happening right now, this is not okay, Jake. You're having some definitely some video problems. This is I don't think this is good. How are you I'm not recording this on my phone right now, not at all. I mean,
God.
This is just embarrassing, isn't it?
maybe I'll just hold the mic like this for the rest of the show. There we go.
That's so 1992. Why would you?
What's up, ladies and gents? We got it's just it's very visual.
That's really embarrassing. We're working on a 25-cent budget here, folks.
Now this.
Oh no!
God damn it! Okay, it's all falling apart, friends. It's fine. I'll just hold it.
Gosh.
I'll just hold it the whole time.
We only have about 20 minutes left in the show. You'll be okay.
It's fine. I'll just hold it.
It'll be okay. But here's what I say. I forgot what I was gonna say before your microphone fell apart.
Something about video games. I
don't know. Something about video games and how I stopped liking certain Twitchers and stuff like that. But anyway, I think there's a way that theaters and streaming can coincide and everybody make money and everybody be happy. But at the end of the day, studios are going to win. So many platforms that are available. You got YouTube TV. I would imagine that pretty soon we're going to have YouTube movies. Well, actually, we already have those. They're just old movies.
Yeah, we do.
You know, there's a way that these people will be able to play well with each other at some point. You know, they'll be able to play well.
I just think like the market, as we know it, this is going to change everything. Like,
well, it is, but right now, because everybody is we're in the middle of this pandemic, Jake. the market is so fluid. Everybody's just kind of like floating right now. And once this pandemic is over, and people settle back into the normal, we'll see where the markets land. We'll see, you know, like podcasting has exploded in the midst of this pandemic, and movies have suffered. You know, streaming has exploded, and theaters have suffered. So there's a lot that the market is just really, really fluid, meaning that it's just always constantly moving. Once the tide has gone back out and the tide of this pandemic has returned to the sea, we'll be able to see where the shells land in the sand. Right now, all the shells are still floating.
Also, like, the whole concept of celebrity, who are the celebrities now? It's like Twitch streamers are the celebrities this year, and YouTube stars, and like these are the celebrities now. Like our classic Hollywood celebrities aren't celebrities. They're all having mental fucking breakdowns. I mean, look at Joe Rogan. That man's fucking freaking out over there on his podcast because he doesn't know what to do with his life. But like, you know, that whole thing has shifted, and now that people have seen the other side of like, maybe classic Hollywood kind of sucks, and you know, I think this is going to change a lot of what's popular, what is popular culture. It's all going to change now. I really think that, and that happens with everything. You know, we saw it. You know, every time there's a big like thing that happens, I'd say 2001. A very prominent thing happened in 2001 that kind of changed popular culture for a long time, and this year has changed. It's going to change popular culture. I think we've yet to fully see what that means. Right. I think we'll really start seeing it next year. Like
everything is fluid right now. No one knows where it's going to land, and I think right now, because we are on the cusp of hope that this pandemic will be coming to an end, with the onslaught of these vaccines, I think that now is not the time to pandemic panic in a way, because if you pandemic panic, you may end up cutting yourself short. You know what I mean? Knowing that when the tide settles and when the dust settles, things are going to be a little different. So now is not the time to panic, and I think the studios are a little ahead of themselves in this hour. If they would have had this conversation back when theaters first reopened, I would be a little more apropos to say this is a good idea. But I think they're a little late to the game with the fact that we are about to close the chapter on this pandemic very soon. That's the hope, at least.
It also kind of feels like they've got a whole slate of movies that didn't release this year, but they've also got next year's movies that they were supposed to have come out next year, and they're like, well, shit, what do we do with the movies that were supposed to come out this year?
So they got a backlog.
They have like a backlog almost, yeah. That's also probably a thing for them where they're like, we just have to start getting these movies out somehow.
If they do it with their backlog catalog, okay, I could see how that would work. But release the newer ones out too. You know what I mean? Don't do a big, huge mess. I think that, Jake, and this may be exciting for you. It may give you a little hope. Summer 2021 may be the biggest summer for movies ever. Because if they've got a backlog, plus they've got new movies that have been in post-production throughout the last 8 months, dude, the summer of 2021 may be a historic time for movies.
Yeah,
the stuff that didn't come out this year, and they're gonna drop it next year, plus new things, dude.
We've also seen a shift though in what, because maybe people who were like big into movies, you know, the popular culture shifted this year from movies to video games, and I know
shifted my ass, my big fat ass shifted.
Like, I know that's funny coming from me because I've always been a video game guy, and maybe I'm just like shooting up my own bias here, but like I think video games are gonna just like dominate from now on as like the popular culture. Like Cyberpunk comes out next week, and I think that game is just gonna do huge massive numbers, like numbers we've never seen before.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. And video games were already huge to begin with, but like, I don't know, man. I think like movies and theaters, it just might be on the downward swing. Like movie theaters will always exist, I think, but like it was already kind of at that point where people were like, I don't really feel like going to a movie theater. I'd rather just stay home and watch, Netflix or whatever. That was already thing people were saying.
Yeah, before the pandemic, but
your thought process is once everything opens, people are going to be desperate to go back out. Is that your thought?
No,
process
my thought
here?
process isn't that people are going to be desperate to go out. My thought process is that people are going to settle. We're creatures of habit. People are going to settle back into their routines. And it's so funny that you say that that movie going is teetering off, and you're the movie buff, and I'm not the movie buff, and I'm saying that people are going to settle back into the theaters because there's one thing that streaming cannot do. Streaming cannot give you that theater experience. There's something to say about going to this building, purchasing overpriced snacks that you could easily get from Circle K for a fraction of the cost, but the experience of walking up to an AMC Deer Valley theater, seeing your friends sitting on those little blocks outside of the theater, meeting up with everybody, and then everybody saying, okay, well, you buy the popcorn, I'll buy the sodas, I'll buy the gumdrops and all, that you can't get that with streaming. Streaming has its draw, but I don't think streaming will ever be able to take away from that experience of being at a theater. That experience, there's way more to it than just sitting at home and being, alone. I do also believe that once this pandemic is over, there are going to be a higher contingency of desperate individuals, but those desperate individuals will eventually wean off. There are going to be people that are going to want to hit the ground running when this thing is finally said and over and we're not having a mask mandate or anything like that. There's going to be people that are going to go crazy like, you do when you go to Vegas for the first time and you got a pocket full of money and every casino door is open, you go a little crazy. I think there's going to be people that are going to go a little crazy when this is all said and done. But when it settles down, there's the movie experience, going to a theater, streaming can't touch that.
I agree with you to a certain extent. I agree with you that like a theater experience I love the theater experience. And I will continue going to movies, not right now, but like when I'm allowed to.
You went to a movie last weekend. What are you talking about?
Hey, shh.
I'm kidding.
That was one of those rented movies. I did actually go to one of those, and it was kind of a cool experience. But like I feel
respect for you.
How dare you? It was just me and the like three people I see anyway.
Yeah, 3 COVID suckers in there breathing movie theater air.
I live with one of them and work with the rest of them, so like whatever. Man.
I'm pandemic shaming. I'm COVID shaming you now. This is what I've been accused of doing.
That's fine, but I can defend myself. I have a good argument. But I just feel like I feel like the theater experience, yes, like everyone loves the theater experience, and you will still be able to experience it. But I think less people are going to be like avid moviegoers where they're going to go every week like they used to. I think more people are going to be like, well, I've already spent so much time at home. I'm pretty comfortable at home now. People have kind of set up their camps at home. They kind of know how to do it right. It reminds me of like an ice skating rink. Okay.
Okay.
There's like 2 of them, in a city. There's like 2 ice skating rinks, and it's a great
in a city
experience
other than Arizona.
Sure, but even in other cities, it's like it's a great experience to go ice skating. But there's only like 2 ice skating rinks. There's only or like crate skate, fucking roller skating, right? It's a fun experience.
Rolero. It is. It's a lot of fun.
yeah, it's a lot of fun. But there's like 2 of them that exist. I think the same is going to be true for theaters, where it's like it's a fun experience and you should go do it. But there's like 2 of them now. You know, there's like 2 theaters now instead of the like 50 that we have around town, which to me it's devastating. It's a travesty, obviously, because I love movies and I love that movie culture. But I honestly feel like that's just the progression of.
But why did it? Why would streaming isn't new? The only thing that's new in this equation is the pandemic. I think that there's going to be
but like 4K TVs, and this is just like this is just like the straw that broke the camel's back, you know, because it was already kind of happening. Like I was saying, the only movies that really made money were Disney movies, like straight up. Yeah. It was Disney movies,
and that was because of the kids.
It's the kids, and Star Wars is huge, and Avengers is huge.
We're missing the fact of the families are going to want to go back to the theater, dude. Do you know how hard it is to sit down with your young kids or your kids, period, and sit them down and watch a streaming movie at home? That's very difficult to do versus taking them out of their environment into a theater.
And you could still do that at the 2 theaters that exist.
With the 2 theaters in town, we got number one. I don't think we'll ever have 2 theaters in town, especially in Phoenix, because it's too big of a metropolitan area. But I don't know, Jake. I think we both have very good, valid points and valid arguments. I think it all comes down to how it's going to play out, man. Any way that it's going to be great. I know I'll be excited to go back into a theater, not to watch movies on a continuous basis, but I'll be excited to have that theater experience again and feeling like a horse's ass because I can walk through the gold ropes at the AMC because I'm an AMC Premier member.
But it's like the arcade, right? Like there was a lovely experience about going to the arcade. And they were all over the place. And then home consoles became a thing. And the arcade, they still exist, but like they're pretty rare to find these days.
And video killed the radio star, and podcast killed the video star.
Well, and also like malls too. Like
poor malls.
There's a great experience in going to a mall, but they've even pre-pandemic, and the pandemic has really just pushed malls out completely.
Brick and mortar stores as a whole have been pushed out of the market at this point.
But like malls are dead. Even
malls.
We have a pretty popular one over by us, and even that one's starting to fade a little, which is crazy.
Yeah. Which is good because maybe they'll take some of those damn street lights off of Bell Road.
But I've said this before on the show. I think it could potentially be a good thing for smaller business. The creator of the mall, I forget the guy's name, back in like the 50s, 60s, 70s, whenever the mall became popular. He straight up was like, malls have ruined America. Malls are the worst thing that I could have created. I regret making them because all it did was, raise up huge corporations and killed small business. With the death of the mall, we might see smaller businesses. With the death of the theater chain, we might see the death of a mass amount of theaters, but we might see a nice boutique local theater, which might be cool.
And I do like boutiques. I do like boutique theaters. I love boutique coffee shops I'll take a boutique coffee shop over a Starbucks any day.
Yeah,
there's something to say about the boutique. Unfortunately, Jake, at the end of this pandemic, some of those boutiques are gone too. I mean, Jesus.
But like, something.
The good thing is that we're going to have such a clean starting place because a lot of good is gone and a lot of bad is gone. So we're going to have a really good, clean, fresh market start. And the people that are able to meet that brand new, spanking new market when all this is said and done, those are going to be the ones that are going to be the most successful. we really have a market restart coming where everybody is going to be at a different place than they were before. All of the statistics, all of the data that they had before about how markets move and what they do and what they like, that's all been offset, man. This pandemic is literally restarting the markets. And like you and I are sitting here surmising, companies are going to have to do the exact same thing. And the ones that are smart enough to get up in front of it, the small businesses that are, dude, if you were sitting back on a small business idea and you haven't started it yet, sit on it until the late summer of 2021, when the market is fresh and clean and they're going to be looking for a product. They're going to be looking for a new product. That'd be the time to launch it. If Dr. Fauci's prediction is right, and we have mass general public vaccinations, and we're selling out theaters again towards the end of summer of 2021, that's the time where you need to get your small businesses out there, because it's going to be a fresh market that has been thrown out from the corporations that folded from the pandemic. There's going to be an uprising. It's going to be huge. And no matter how you look at it, Trump's not going to have anything to do about it.
That's true. Yeah, I'm like very hopeful about the future.
You should. It's hopeful time. It's hopeful time.
Yeah, because we've seen the shit, and a lot of shit has happened this year, and a lot of businesses have closed, and a lot of people lost their jobs. But that's about to turn around, and you know what? Instead of going back to Barnes and Noble, that's not there anymore. So maybe we're gonna need some people to open their own bookstores.
Instead of Barnes and Noble, you're gonna go to Barb's and Nick's. You know what I mean? And I'll be glad when the pandemic is over, so I can stop using fabric tape to hold on my mask.
What?
Have you, as I know we're at the end of the show, but dude, okay, so I know you're not familiar with this, even though you could be one. Models sometimes wear clothes that look like they're barely clinging onto their body. The reason why the way they're able to do that is with this invisible fabric tape. There is a special tape that you can actually stick on your skin. Well, Jake, I've now been using it to hold on my mask on my face.
Genius.
To create a real tight seal around my nose, because what was happening is that through the little side, my nostrils that flare out against my massive ass cheeks, I kept feeling air coming in and out of there. So now with fabric tape, with the secret tape that Hollywood models use, Jennifer Lopez made it really famous when she wore that infamous green dress that would look like it was going to slip off her nipples at any time. That dress wasn't going anywhere because of fabric tape. I now use fabric tape to hold my mask onto my face to create a really nice tight seal, because I've returned to camera work, and I'm around 250 people now, and none of them care about COVID. So I have to protect myself, and I hold my mask on now with fabric tape. Genius.
It's a great idea. I've got a big ass schnoz, and it sticks out pretty far. And what happens for me is like my mask will just start to slowly like drift down it. Yeah. And I feel like an asshole because like sometimes it drifts below my nose, and it's unintentional, and I always try to pull it back up. I just have a big ass nose. So yeah, that's a fucking great idea. Also, when I wear my sunglasses and you wear glasses,
I do. Fogs them up.
When you breathe, you get fog. Maybe if you tape it closed, you won't fog as much. That's a great idea.
I'm back doing video camera work, and I am wearing goggles and protective glasses because I don't trust the camera equipment is being cleaned properly. So I don't want my eye to come in contact with the view scoop. So I wear glasses that are just clear glass glasses, so that the lens scoop just hits my eye. But when I'm wearing those glasses, they're fogging up. They don't anymore because of my fabric tape. And this fabric tape is so inexpensive. No one's figured out to start using this. That's the reason why I bought 1,000 pieces of fabric tape. 100 come in a pack. I ordered 10 packs.
It's a great idea.
And by the time I get through all of them, and I use 2 strips per mask. I just do over the nose. 2 strips per mask. And I would imagine that by the time we get to the summer of 2021, I may have made it through all 1,000 of these strips of fabric tape. Genius idea. Jake, I will not send you some fabric tape to help you hold your mask up over your schnoz. Because that's the type of person I am.
You will not do it. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, this has turned into an ad read for fucking secret safe tape.
I didn't say the brand name. You just turned it into an ad. I just said fabric tape. But don't do this with regular tape, people, because regular tape has chemicals that can irritate your skin. Body and clothing tape is specifically designed in a hypoallergenic way, waterproof way, and it has to be skin and fabric friendly. If you just go to the Home Depot and you get yourself some double-sided tape, you might end up tearing off half your face when you remove your mask. Don't do that. Find specifically fabric tape if you're into masking up very well as much as I am. It's overkill, but I have a big, huge head. I have a big, fat face. And I have a hard time finding masks that snug up against my mouth to make me feel safe. Fabric tape has now given me that sense of safety.
That's a life hack right there.
It is a life hack. Cut this up. Highlight this. Life hack.
All right, you got it. Life
You're
hack.
welcome.
Life hacks with Cory. Well,
you know what? That may be a reoccurring feature. I may have another life hack coming up.
There we go. Well, this has been Life Hacks with Cory. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure you check out our other shows like the Jake and Cory podcast every Monday. Make sure you check out the Loner Gamecast every Tuesday. Yeah, keep an eye on the channel. We're always posting fun, new, interesting things.
Yeah. And pay attention for a new show called CNA with Cory and Austin.
Yeah, I'm so into that, dude.
I'm kidding. I'm only doing that because he's the only one listening to this.
Watch us live on Twitch. If you watch this live on Twitch, you would know that reference because
yeah. So follow Twitch, Lonercast on Twitch, Fat Guy Radio Show on Twitch. Follow us, give us a follow. Because sometimes Jake was streaming, Lonercast was streaming last night. Fat Guy Radio Show wasn't. But a little hybrid show popped out after we were gaming, and I think I said I was going to disconnect like 2 times, and then hours later we're still talking, and
we weren't even playing a game. We were just chit chatting,
and there were 3 of us talking, but 5 people in the Discord.
Yeah, it was awkward.
So 2 were just listening. No, it was great. It was amazing. It was like an impromptu show.
Yeah, I'm totally down to do more stuff like that. That was fun.
It was phenomenal. It was a great time, and I wasn't wearing pants the whole time.
5, 6, 7, 8.
Hey!